Hey everyone, welcome to the Community of Practice on Autism Spectrum Disorder and Developmental Disability and the Wisconsin Autism Transition Demonstration Project Coalition meeting. We do have over 100 people that have registered for today's gathering. And so we're going to have to take a little bit of time at this front end to be able to get everybody into the meeting room. Um, he says as he's just not sure how to, do his own slides. Thank you, Lynn. So, this is the meeting of the community practice in Wadi, as we're known. And today we're going to learn about charting the life course, and I cannot even begin to tell you how excited I am about that. We're going to then move into sharing some self-advocate stories. We have self-advocates from across Wisconsin. Some are going to be joining us live, some have recorded their thoughts on what has worked well for them in transition and what has been maybe a barrier and what could have gone a little bit better. When we finish with the self-advocate stories, the recordings and the lives, we're going to just move into some short updates. What is happening with the Wisconsin Autism Transition Demonstration Project and what's coming up? How might you be involved? What do we have on the horizon? As well as opening it up to our great community of practice on autism spectrum disorders and developmental disabilities to share what's coming up in this great state of Wisconsin that people may want to get involved in so that they can connect, so that they can share, so that they can learn, so that they can participate. We encourage anybody who has upcoming events, in case we don't have time to get to all of them, if you know of events, webinars, meetups that are happening in Wisconsin that will help enhance the lives of people with autism and developmental disabilities and the people who support them, please feel free to put that into the chat and we will send all those out afterwards. After we're done with our updates, we will be moving into small groups where we'll be talking about what we've learned today. How applicable are the Charting the Life course domains and the how does that resonate with you in Wisconsin about, is this something that's going to work for us? I'm really excited about them. So I'll tell you right now, the answer is yes. But we still want you to discuss what is working well in these domains and what maybe just could be improved upon. And then we're going to close with an evaluation and just some closing thoughts. So let's go ahead and we're going to, oh, I also have to introduce then we will be using a Mentimeter, which I'll get to in a moment, but please introduce yourself in the chat. We ask that you remain muted during the main presentation. Your chat feature should be on your lower menu bar on your Zoom screen. And so you should see a series of icons underneath that include things like who's participating, the chat, reactions, share, and then more. So that chat feature will allow you to communicate with everybody in the group. And so please put your questions or comments that you might have as we go through the meeting in that chat. We will keep an eye on it and we'll make sure that we have those questions answered at the end. If you are a family member, please feel free to do an individual chat to me. I will be attempting to reach out and I will be trying to connect with anybody who identifies as a family member, guardian, supporter for families. If you're a self-advocate, we're excited that you're here as well. And if you would need some support or want to reach out and chat with somebody in the meeting, please feel free to reach out to Caitlin. Caitlin is here to help support those self-advocates. And then if you have any issues with tech, please feel free to message Julie Shears. So you can message the group or you can message individuals. Next slide. Um, oh, geez, there you go. You gave me control. Thank you, Lynn. Lynn's amazing. We will be using Mentimeter during this presentation so that you can interact and we can get some real-time information. So if you have a smartphone, please scan the QR code that you see on your screen right now. You'll have to click a link that comes up. You can also we'll be placing the link in the chat as well, so that you can go to that. It'll open up, it'll just sort of stay there. We will move through the Mentimeter throughout the process. You can also go to menti.com and enter in 78950452. and that will put you into our Mentimeter room. Now, if all that technology is a little bit too much and you're like, I just can't connect to anything right now, when we ask a question, if you want to put your answer in the chat, our staff will then add it to the poll. So you still will be able to give input. So you can QR code it, go to the link when we put it in the chat. You could go to Mentimeter or just put your answer in the chat and we'll take care of it for you. So hopefully you had a chance to do that, Lynn. I'm going to look at you to see what we are doing. Um, so if you could go and just right now, before we get started with our awesome guest, feel free to, in your Mentimeter, either at menti.com, using the link that we'll put in the chat, or just put your answer chat. How much do you know about this Charting the Life course? That's going to be our main presentation. We're just interested in, who's heard of it, who's familiar with it, who could come in and teach our staff about it. Um, and Jane, you are not allowed to answer this question. You will totally throw off our poll results. So no answering the question, Jane. Um,
No, do it. Do it, Jane. Do it. Be chaos.
So Hunter is a little anarchy ridden this morning. That's what happens when he gets tired. It happens. So I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to move along because it seems like we have a lot of people who don't know much about charting the life course. So let's get to Jane. And Jane St. John is with the Charting Life Course Nexus. And I'm going to leave you to go ahead and do the rest of your introductions. All I know is, Jane, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Mhm.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited to share with everybody this morning. Because it is a shorter presentation, we're just going to be scratching the surface, but there's lots of opportunities for you to learn more if this does spark your interest. So, like I said, I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for asking me. Oops. Okay. So this is me. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I'm a mom, first of all. My son, Ben, is 35. He has a developmental disability. He still lives at home with us. So a lot of the things that are in Charting the Life course, that some of the things that I'll share today have been inspired by Ben and our life with Ben. So I'll be sharing a few examples of how we've used Charting the Life course to help him plan his life and reach his goals and do the things that he wants to do. I also have two other kids. Ben's a twin, and then he has an older brother. Of course, there's a dog, grandkids. I've worked at the Charting the Life Course Nexus at the University of Missouri, Kansas City Institute for Human Development for the past 24 years. I mostly work in family support and things around supported decision making. So I'm really excited to be here with you today. So what we're going to do today, as far as Charting the Life Course, I'm going to give you a basic overview of the key principles of the Charting the Life Course framework. What is it? Why are we talking about it? I'm going to give you some examples of how it can be used in everyday life. And then we're also going to talk just a little bit about how you can use it in the transition to adult life. So the framework and principles. So Charting the Life Course was created, first of all, by families and people with disabilities, but it ended up being for all abilities and all ages, right? We were thinking first about people and families that experience disability, but it really quickly became evident that it was something that anybody could use at any time in their life. And so some of the things you can do, as I said, it's a framework. It's a way to have conversations, to talk to people about what they want in life and what their goals are and what their vision is. It's a way to really explore what's possible in life, I think, because, when you have a child, especially a young child with a disability, you just get a new diagnosis, you're not often told about all the things that are going to be possible. You're told about all the things that probably aren't going to be possible. You get the negative, right? And so we want people to be able to explore what is possible and not focus on the negative. We also want to give people a way to share their ideas, their vision, their hopes, and even their fears. And to sometimes put that down in writing and just say, I'm going to identify this and I'm going to talk about this. We want to have people have higher expectations. We don't want them to listen to that negative noise. We want people to understand that, just because a doctor says the person can't do something, that doesn't mean anything, right? And so have those expectations and aim high and shoot for those stars. It's also about problem solving and planning, right? We all do that in our lives every day, but sometimes when you experience disability and autism, especially, I think, you really have to, there's a lot of problem solving, right? There's a lot of things you have to figure out, but you also want to plan. You want to think ahead. You want to think about where you're going and how you're going to get there, how you're going to navigate that future. And then finally, how to advocate for what your vision is. And I have to keep reminding myself to hit the right button here. I keep putting the one on my computer. So my technology skills are sometimes questionable. So we start with the Charting the Life course starts with what we call our core belief. We believe that all people have the right to live, love, work, play, and pursue their life aspirations in their community. It doesn't say all people with disabilities. It doesn't say all people with autism. All people have that same right, and we are part of all people. So, as we're focusing on all people, we believe that all people, regardless of your age, your race, your ethnicity, your abilities, or even your family roles, have to be thought about, considered, and planned for in the vision, the values, the policies, and the practices for supporting people and families. So, we can't just think about, this particular population, or if we're a service provider, we can't just think about the people that we're providing service for right at this moment. We have to think about the all. Oops, sorry. Go back just one. So while we're thinking about all, let's start with why we have to think differently about support. This is a surprise to a lot of people that only about 25% of people with disabilities, of intellectual and developmental disabilities, have access to formal or paid services in the DD system. So that's 1 out of every 4 people get paid services. What about the other 3 out of 4, right? So when we think about that other 75%, what's going to happen for them? How do we make sure that they have a good life? Even without services, people can have great lives. So how do we help people plan and find the right supports so that, even if they get services and even if they don't, they can plan for and problem solve and explore and have the lives that they want to have. And yes, I just saw in chat, you will get copies of all the slides. We have it in a PDF that you'll be able to get. So for some of these that I zoom through really fast, you can go back and explore them later as well. We also talk about recognizing the person in the context of their family. Life Course was really built around the fact that we have to think about both the person that has a disability and their family. And sometimes that gets lost. And so it really started with a move to support families so that the families can be strong enough and have the resources that they need and have the support that they need and the flexibility that they need to be able to support their family member, not just their family member with a disability, but all their family members, right? To have the lives that they want to have. And so that's why we think it's so important to talk about recognizing a person in the context of family. The other important thing to remember about that is that family is defined by the person and the family, right? Family doesn't have to be your traditional family. It can be any family, any kind of family, any shape, size, gender, all the above, right? It can be foster families. It can be step families. It can be grandparents raising children, all the different things. It's defined by the person and the family. Another thing that we talk about a lot is the reciprocal roles of all family members. We talk about the word reciprocal because, in families, it's give and take, right? We give love, we get love back. We do things for our family members. They do things for us. Even people that have disabilities do things within their families and have roles and responsibilities and do all the things within their families. And we divide those into 2 different categories, caring for and caring about. And they're both equally important. But sometimes I think we get so caught up, and I say this as a family member, sometimes we get so caught up in supporting the day-to-day needs, making sure that the person, has a roof over their head and that they're supported and that they have IEP meetings and we're thinking about transition to adulthood and all the things that happen that we need to think about, thinking about the future. How are they going to, have medical care and where are they going to live and those type of things. But we also have to think about the caring about part. We have to think about who loves that person. Who do they love? Who's in their life? Who's important to them? Who do they trust? Who can they trust? Who do they spend time with? Who do they have important memories with? Who knows the things about them, right? I know for a long time, I was the person that knew everything about men, right? You ask me anything, I know about the IEPs and the doctor's appointments and all the things. And then it occurred to me one day, it's like, I shouldn't be the only person that knows this. What if something should happen that I can't do the things that I do? And so I started thinking about who else can I bring into that picture? My husband and now his adult siblings and extended family members and friends and all the different people that have different roles in Ben's life because we can set up the best plan for caring about. We can make sure that all of the financial things and all of the instrumental needs are covered, but things happen, right? Financial things change, Medicaid changes, all the things can change. Who's going to be there to make sure that everything's okay if things do change and get things back on track? And more importantly, who's going to provide that love, care, affection, share those memories, know all the things that they need to know about the person? So, reciprocal roles, I could talk about literally for hours. It's one of the most important things that you can think about as far as family roles. So, one of the things that I love to talk about is what we call the trajectory. And we call it the trajectory of life experiences across the lifespan. And this means that across all the different life stages, we think about how each of those stages of life is preparing us for the next stage. So when you're an infant, when you're in early childhood, the things that you're learning, the things that you're doing are preparing you for getting ready to go to school, right? And then the next stage of life is, that school age is preparing you to start moving into that adult life. And then, as you're an adult, you live an adult life for many years, and then you go into aging and end of life. And so each of those things are connected, and they're like stepping stones. And so the things that we learn and that we do along the way, um, that prepares us for the next stages of life to come. So it all starts with a vision. And so I want you just really quickly to think about in your head, what is your vision for a good life? What makes your life good, right? Something that you want to be part of, right? What are good things in life? So I think about things like friends and family and having enough money to do the things that I want to do and having control of my money. Living in a situation that I want to live in, having a job that I love, going on vacations, having pets. It can be anything, right? And a vision can be very long term, right? I can be thinking about 5 years, 10 years down the road. Where do I want to be? What do I want my life to look like? But it also can be very short term. It can be a school year. It can be, what am I going to do this week, right? What am I going to do today? We all have visions for what we want at different stages of our lives. And so, long term, short term, it can be around a specific need or want. So, maybe you're thinking about buying a house or getting your driver's license or taking a class at a community college. How are you going to, what is your vision for what that looks like? What do you want it to be? What are the positive things that you want to happen because of that? Now, you also can think about, and you also should think about your vision of what you don't want. And again, that can be long term, short term, around specific things, around problem solving, but it's so important. We talked about just a little bit earlier about identifying those fears, right? And putting those out into the universe. And that's what you do with your vision of what I don't want. I think about, retirement's getting closer and closer for me. So I think about the things I don't want in retirement, right? I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be without money. I don't want to be sick and be in the hospital and those kind of things. And so I want to think about those things because as I'm thinking about what we call our life trajectory, and trajectory just means a path. A trajectory is a path towards either what you want or what you don't want in life. And we want to keep that trajectory on the path towards what we want. That's that arrow that you see on the screen in front of you. And so, why it's so important to have the vision of what you don't want is that sometimes life happens, right? You get sick, you might lose your job. Different things happen that are maybe negative, and you might start moving towards the things you don't want. And you want to recognize that. Decisions that you make, you want to think about, where is this taking me on my path? Is this decision or choice taking me towards what I want? Or is it taking me towards what I don't want? And so it's so important to recognize when you're going towards what you don't want so you can course correct. You can change that choice or decision, or you can do something to get back on course. And so when we think about the vision and trajectory, it's just as important to think about what you want and what you don't want. And sometimes it's okay to start with what you don't want, especially as families. I think when we start thinking about what is our vision for what we want, it's kind of like we don't know. We don't know where to start. But I know for me, at least, as a family member, when Ben was younger, I could tell you lots of things I didn't want for him in life, but I couldn't necessarily put into words what I wanted for him. But when I started thinking about what I didn't want, usually the opposite of that is what you want, right? So it helps you get on the path. So you can start in either direction. That's the cool thing about Life Course is you don't have to do it in a prescribed manner. For some people, it works to start with, I have a vision of what I want. I'm going to start there. For other people, it might be, I know what I don't want. I'm going to start there and then I'm going to work back from that. So either way is okay, and that's fine. So this is a little bit about Ben. So as I said, Ben's 35. Ben has cerebral palsy and a bunch of other things going on, some physical things, some medical things. He's been tested 2 or 3 times for autism. He's right there. He's at that crossing line where he's not quite there, but he's so close. So a lot of the things we did as he was growing up were things that that you do with in autism for intervention. And it helped him a lot. Things like social stories, knowing what to expect, planning ahead, those type of things. For him, it's important to have his friends, his family, tattoos, so lots of things that again, I'm going to let you read those on your own later on. Things that he doesn't want. He doesn't like being sick, doesn't like being in the hospital, doesn't like it when family members are sick, doesn't like it when he forgets his wallet and doesn't have his money, things like that. So, and again, that red line is to kind of show you sometimes we drift towards the things he doesn't want, but we always think about how can we get back on the path. So that trajectory that we talked about goes across all those life stages that I talked about earlier. Remember how I talked about how the life stages kind of build upon one another. I've got the arrow pointing at transition because most of you here today are in either in that phase of life or you're supporting people who are in that phase of life. And it sounds like a big scary thing, transition. But if we think about it, we have transitions all throughout our life, right? You've got early childhood transitioning into regular school age. You've got, going into middle school. That's a huge transition, right? It's different because you're changing classes and the kids have, all kinds of things going on with, growing up and hormones and all those things. And then you've got that transition to adulthood. And so all throughout life, we have transitions. And so, how do we think about and how do we stay on our path towards our good life throughout all those transitions? And then we also think about what are the life experiences we have across our lifespan. And so, as we think about that transition to adulthood or moving into adult life, this is kind of where we're at. And again, I just randomly circled this, but just because certain things are in this particular circled area that I have doesn't mean that they have to occur there, right? Maybe a child has chores when they're much younger, or maybe they have those chores. They don't learn about chores until they're an adult. That's okay. You meet people where they're at, right? But we want people to have those life experiences that help prepare them for life. Learning about, you know, things like having responsibility, going to things like scouts or 4-H or being in faith groups, having summer jobs or babysitting, even having jobs around the house, that it's okay to make mistakes and learn from mistakes. that it's okay to say no if something makes you uncomfortable, right? So all of those different things are so important as we experience life all across the lifespan. And so, so important, I think, as we transition to adulthood, in my opinion, starts the minute you're born, right? The minute you're born, you're starting to have experiences that prepare you for becoming an adult. It just becomes something that we put a label on when kids get to the age of about 14. But transition is one of those things that's ongoing and it can continue into adulthood, right? I know that my son is still learning things and doing things that maybe he wasn't able to do at 18, but now in his 30s, he's able to do different things or learn more things than he could at that age. So again, there's no right or wrong. It doesn't matter if, say, my young person didn't do that at this age. That's okay. Work on it now, right? That's something they can experience and learn now. So this is Gunnar. Gunnar is a child of a friend of mine. Gunnar is 14 and has autism. This is his trajectory on one of our tools. Again, we have tools. Really, the tools are just to help you have the conversations, to help you think about and plan. But sometimes it's good to put it down and have it, to go back to and say, okay, here's what I said I wanted. Here's this vision. Connor has, and it's hard to read, so I'm going to read you a couple of the things. He wants to someday live in his own house, to drive a red car. He wants to be a wealthy business owner. He wants to have a wife and 2 kids. He wants to take vacations at the river. He likes to watch the show Family Guy. He likes chickens and he wants to be able to cuss. If he wants to cuss, he wants to be able to do that. That's his vision for what he wants in his words. Things he doesn't want. He doesn't want to live by himself. He doesn't want to not have any money. He doesn't want to be told what to do, and he doesn't want to have no privacy. So those are the things that are important to him. Now, those just didn't, they didn't sit down at a table and say, let's fill out this form, right? His mom and his dad had many conversations with him over time to learn these things. And sometimes you have to really do that and you have to think about that and plan. Another friend of mine, she would work with her kids. She had 2 kids that had disabilities. One had autism, one had um, Down syndrome. Sorry, blanked out for a minute. And they would, while she was cooking dinner at night, they would just talk about life, right? So one night they might talk about different kinds of jobs that people have. And, well, what kind of job do you think you'd like to have? Well, my first job was this, and I really hated it, but it was a good job for me to earn some money. They just had conversations like that about life. And so by doing that, she was able to get to the life trajectory that the vision for what they wanted and what they didn't want. Because especially with a teenager, the last thing they want to do is sit down and fill something out that looks like paperwork, right? So you have to be creative, I think, sometimes with kids. So the other thing we have that I think is great for parents and people that care about other people that they want to think about and plan for is what we call our family perspective tools. And this is a family perspective trajectory. What it really means is that it's a way for me to express what I think is a good life vision for Ben. It's not only what I want for him, but what I think he wants, because Ben doesn't always say what he wants. He's not as able to verbalize sometimes, especially the things he doesn't want. He shows us in many different ways what he doesn't want, what he doesn't like, and what he does want. But if you ask him the question, depending on the day, you might just get to talk about NASCAR, or you might just get to talk about the fire station that he volunteers at. And so it's a way for me to say, based on knowing him and living with him, this is what I think. And these are the things that I think have been positive or negative for him in the past. So it's a way to use your voice as a parent or someone who cares about a person without taking away their voice. So you want to make sure they have their voice, but also share some of the important things that you know about a person that otherwise may not be able to be uh, addressed or talked about in meetings and planning and things like that. The other thing that you can do is use what we call life domains. Tim was just talking about the life domains, and so I'm going to go into detail in just a minute. But these 6 life domains that I'm showing you, plunked in that one section of the trajectory, is really to help you think about when you're having those conversations, when you're thinking about what a good life is, you can use those life trajectories to be very specific. Well, what kind of job do you think you would do? What would you be good at? Where do you think you want to live? Do you think you'll always live here with me, or do you want to live on your own? So-and-so lives in an apartment. Do you want to live in like an apartment or a house, or what kind of place do you want to live in? And do you want to travel? And what kind of things do you want to do? And what's important to you about your health? You don't like it when you don't feel good. So how can we talk about that? And so all those different domains can take you down the different paths of what a good life might look like, and also the things that you don't want. So that's a good way to use those. So let's talk about what those are. So your life domains are really just the parts of life that we all experience that make us a whole person, right? And so the way I remember these and the way I talk about these and tell other people to think about them, and you can do it however you want, but this is how I remember them. If you go to a party and you meet a bunch of people or you meet a new person that you've never met before, and so after you tell people your name, what's the first thing you talk about? It's usually, what do you do, right? That's daily life and employment. Or what do I do? What do I do? As a child, what you do is go to school, right? Um, but as an adult, most of us, we talk about employment. What kind of job do we have? What kind of job do we want? Maybe we volunteer. What do we do during the day that makes life meaningful for us? And that's daily life and employment. Now, the next thing you might talk about is, well, where are you from? Where do you live? Right? So that goes into community living. So community living is not just about what kind of a house do I live in, right? Or what neighborhood do I live in, but it's also about, do I need changes or adaptations to my home to be able to successfully live in it? How do I take care of my home? How do I access my community? What are the things in the community and the neighborhoods that I like to do? Um, that's community living. So here in Missouri, when we have those conversations, I'm on the Missouri side, right? But we live near the state line in Kansas City, and so we talk about, are you a Kansas person or a Missouri person? We have the Missouri River running right through Kansas City. Well, do you live north of the river or south of the river? So all those different kind of conversations you have when you're meeting someone. That's how I remember community living. So then we also talk about who are the shared people, maybe people that we know or have in common. And so that's social and spirituality. There's somebody on talk radio in this area that has the same last name as me, St. John. And so I'll get people all the time saying, well, do you know that Steve St. John guy or whatever? I can't remember what his name is, but I think it's Steve that's on the radio. No, I really don't. But, we talk about who our mutual friends are, relationships, or, maybe where we go to church, our temple, or, whatever our spiritual life might be. Maybe we have that in common. And so that's social and spirituality. Healthy living, as we get older, we start talking about all the things going wrong in our lives, right? Oh, my knee, or whatever. But so healthy living is not just about our physical health or our medical health, but also, our mental health, how we handle stress, our everyday things like nutrition and wellness and, being on the move, having affordable care. All of those things fall under healthy living. Safety and security is really about, how do we stay safe? What do we do in emergencies, right? So in the Midwest, we're in Tornado Alley. And so, we talk a lot about, you guys are as well. We prepare for things like tornadoes and floods and all those kind of things. What do we do when those things happen? How do we stay safe as far as our just general well-being? What are our legal rights and issues that we might have to think about? Thinking about, guardianship and alternatives to guardianship. How is someone going to be able to make decisions with the support and the help that they need? That all falls under safety and security. And then finally, and not the least important, certainly one of the most important things is advocacy and engagement. What are our valued roles? What's important to us? What do we do in the community? How are we in leadership roles? What are our responsibilities? Do we have peer support? Those kind of things. And so all of those things working together are how we would achieve our life outcomes, right? But the domains are really great for, as I said earlier, really thinking about that vision and how you can really zone in even more. You can kind of start general, right? What are some of the big things? Family, friends, all that, like I talked about earlier. But It's like, well, what kind of job do you want? Where do you want to live? All those kind of specific things through conversations and over time that you can really think about and that are so important during that time of transition to, moving to adulthood. Excuse me. So we also want to think about, it's so important that, especially in the service field, the disability field, we often think about the important four that you see on the right-hand side of the scale, right? So we have to make sure that people are safe and healthy, right? And those are important. Those are very important. But at the same time, we want to think about what's important to that person. What makes them have the quality of life that they want? And so we want to balance that health and safety with all of those other life domains. What their daily life looks like, what kind of job they might have, what their daily, what their routines look like, what's important to them, who are their friends, their family, what do they do for fun, the advocacy engagement piece that we just talked about, those important roles. Do they live in the situation that they want to live in? How can they have the accommodations that they need? And so we want to find that balance of both of those things, the important two and the important four. So we have some tools again to share. These are our life stage quick guides. This particular one, we have 5 of them, soon to be 6, one for each of the life stages. But this one in particular is on the transition to adulthood. And so what it does, we call it a 4-pager. That's just the kind of the slang name for it that we've always called it, but we wanted to give it a more official name of the quick guide. But it takes each of the life domains and it gives you 4 or 5 things to really think about, have conversations about, explore during that time of moving to adult life. And so it's just a way for you to kind of have that quick start of what's important to think about during these next however many years it is until my child becomes an adult and experiences life as an adult. So I encourage you to check that out at our website, which at the end, there will be a link that you can go to. We also have what we call our Moving to Adult Healthcare Toolkits. We just developed those in the last year or so, and there's 6 different toolkits. They're listed here, all the way from understanding what transition is and what healthcare transition means, learning about your own healthcare and your own, if you have a disability, learning more about that, being able to talk about that or share that with other people, your day-to-day healthcare routines, which I'm going to show you an example of what that toolkit looks like in just a second, understanding your legal rights, starting to lead your healthcare visits in whatever way you can. And that might just be going in and being the one that greets the doctor first, being the one that gives the insurance card to the person at the desk and checking in. So all those different, we have to look at, what the person's abilities are, what they're able to do, what they want to do, and figure out how they can start leading and being a bigger part of their healthcare visits and that kind of thing. So there's a direct link on this slide that you can follow when you have the slides. Each kit contains a couple of different things. One is a side-by-side guide. This is great for families and even people other supporters that work with a person, because it gives information that the person can look at by themselves if they want to, but they can also go through it with a parent or another supporter. And there are stopping points along the way. It's like, hey, stop and have a conversation about this. At the end, it's like, well, maybe you want to fill out this tool together. It also has a special section just for the supporters, just for the parents and other supporters that gives them tips on how to help the person, with this particular toolkit and how to help them learn about that particular topic. We also have something called an easy reader, which is in a format that is easier and more cognitively accessible for people that may have trouble with reading or comprehension. We have some tools and some tip sheets for using the tools as well. So this is what a toolkit looks like. This is the day-to-day health routines. It has, this is just an example it's about a 20-page booklet, but this is just a couple of the pages. One is about talking about food and being fuel for your body. The other page is about coping and well-being and talking about, having someone to talk to when you're stressed and that kind of thing. So again, it's just something for you to check out that might be helpful for you during transition time. This is what we call the easy reader. This one's about managing your medication, so it's on a very specific topic. As you see, it has a lot of pictures, a lot of white space, very few words on each page. That's that middle page is what the Easy Reader looks like on the inside. And then finally on the far right is the medication list, tool, and tip sheet. The tool is actually what you see embedded in the middle of the tool sheet of the tip sheet there. But there's actually a separate tool that pulls out of there. But I just didn't have room to show you all of them, and we have limited time, so I didn't want to try to have too many slides. So, but check those out. So not only do we have the tool, but we have the tips on how to go through it and how to work on it and fill it out and use it. But it's a great way for them to keep track of their medication, and has visual things that if they don't read well, it can help them understand what's on there. Okay, and I know we probably have some questions, and we will definitely answer questions. But I'm going to keep moving because we're limited on time here. So, what we call the three buckets of need. So, this really is about what any of us need at any different point in our lives when something new happens. Maybe you get a new diagnosis or you have a problem that you're working on. And so it's really about thinking about what we need and the strategies to get what we need. And so the three buckets, again, I'm going to cover these really quickly, but you can go to our website and learn more. One is called discovery and navigation, and that's really just about how do we get the information and the tools that we need to navigate life, to problem solve, to learn more about a particular topic. So for instance, if you have a job that you're interested in, right? As a young person, you might be exploring lots of different types of jobs. And so I want to learn more about this particular job. So I'm going to get lots of information about that job. I'm going to read about it. I'm going to watch some videos. I'm going to go online. I'm going to find all the information I can. But then it's like, maybe I want to talk to somebody that has that job. Maybe I want to go spend the day with them at their job. So that's where we go to the next bucket that we call connection and networking. And that's really about that peer support and talking to people who have kind of been there and done that. And then finally, the last bucket is the goods and services. Well, what would I need to be able to do that job, right? Maybe I'm going to need a ride to work every day. Maybe I'm going to need money to be able to buy a particular uniform that I have to wear, or maybe I need some kind of job training. And so that's the goods and services bucket. You can take just about any situation and put it into the context of those three buckets and really think about what is it that I need? Which of the three buckets, maybe all three of them, do I need to be able to get to where I want to go? And then finally, we come to the integrated support star. And so we really want people to think about having lots of different kinds of supports. And so the reason for that is, traditionally when someone, for instance, would go to the service system, and maybe the service system has a waiting list, right? They don't have enough funding to be able to give you the services that you need. They would just say, you don't qualify, you qualify for services. We just don't have anything we can do for you right now. We don't have the funds. And that would be the end of it. And so we're like, that's not good enough, right? We want them to think about and help that family and that person think about what else in my life can I use and can I access that's going to help me get to what I need to do to my good life. And even if you do get services, how can you use other things to complement and work together with those services, not just be the end all be all? And so that's why the integrated support star came about. So this is kind of what we're looking at here, and I'm going to go through each one individually. So when we think about it again, where we used to start was that green part of the star, right? What are we eligible for? What are the disability specific things or the need-based things, the paid supports that we can get? But then we talk about relationships. And then the next one, what are our own personal skills and strengths, kind of in that aqua color up there? Technology in the pink. We all use technology. Why aren't we using it to help support ourselves? Community-based, where are the places we go and the people that we interact with in the community? So real quickly, I'm going to go through these, but our personal assets and strengths, what are we good at? What are our own, what is our knowledge and our experiences that we can bring to the table? What are the things that other people notice about us and admire about us and say, wow, that's really cool and you're good at that, or that's something that I really like about you. It can also be things even that we own. My example here is that I always say I'm going to buy Ben a car someday. He's going to have his own car in his own name. Now, Ben has cerebral palsy, and he also would probably have a lot of difficulty passing the driver's test. I never say never, but he may never be able to get a driver's license. But if he has a car, other people can drive him to the places he needs to go. That could be a friend, a family member, that could be a paid support person, could use that vehicle to drive him and get him to the places he wants to go. And so that would be an asset that he would have that would help him have a good life. Relationships. Obviously, we always talk about family, right? The family has huge roles, throughout a person's life. Our friends, again, very important. One I think that gets left behind sometimes is acquaintances, right? These are people maybe that we see often or we come in contact with, but we don't really know them well. In Ben's case, we run into people all the time. They know who he is. They'll say, "Hey, Ben, how's it going?" We'll get a little further down. I'll go, "Ben, who was that?" He'll me the shoulder shrug. I don't know. But he knows them from somewhere. He recognizes them, right? Sometimes he knows, he'll if he sees them out of context, it's hard for him, but he knows them from somewhere. But the important thing is they know him. It really became obvious to me when he has staff that helps him, while my husband and I are able to work during the week. And so one of the things he likes to do is go to our local community center, and he works out there and he plays basketball at the gym there, and people know him and they see him. And we had a staff that had quit and we hadn't hired a new one yet, and he hadn't been able to go up there for a while. And I was off work one day and I said, "Hey, let's go to the community center." And so we walk in the door and we hadn't gotten 2 feet inside the door when people were like, "Ben, where have you been? We haven't seen you in like a couple of weeks. Have you been sick? Are you okay?" And it hit me like a brick. That's like, wow, these are people who, you know, they just know him because they see him at the gym, but they worried about him and they cared about him and they look out for him. And so it gave me a lot of comfort and peace of mind that if he was out and about and one of those people saw him and he was in a situation where he needed help, they would come and they would speak up or they would do something to help him. Those acquaintances, we can't forget about them. They can be so, so important. Technology, we all use technology all the time. And, before Ben's 35. So you think 35 years ago, we didn't have internet and all these cool technology things that we have now. And to get anything like the cool technology we have now, you had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. And now you can just go buy things, right? We've got cameras. We've got a front door camera. We've got one on the back porch, looking out over the back. We've got one inside the house so that if we need to, we can talk to Ben if we're not home and we need to check on him. It cost us a couple $100, right? Technology is everywhere. So how can we use technology to help people do the things they want to do, learn new skills, all the different things that we want to accomplish? Community, where are the places that we go, the groups that we belong to? What are some of the important, we call them government resources on here, but it's like some of the local services. Like in our town, we have, it's called the omnibus. Some people have like an oats bus, but you can get a card. I think now it's just you have something you scan and you can ride the bus and they'll take you to Walmart and to the gym and different places around town. So how can we use things like that? That was something that during Ben's transition in high school, after he kind of completed the part of all the academic stuff and the other kids his age had graduated, we're like, we don't just want him sitting in classrooms anymore. Oh, that's done. How do we get him out there and start volunteering? And one of the things he did was learn to ride the local bus. And again, it was more people that he was connecting with. He got to know the bus drivers and all that kind of thing. And so how can we use those resources to help him have a good life? And then finally, what things we might be eligible for and how those things can all work together. So important not to just rely on paid supports, because if for something happens where you can't get those paid supports anymore, like I said, Medicaid changes all the time. It could be changing right now, while we're speaking. There's things in our state legislature here, at least, that are changing, the ability to get Medicaid. If Medicaid goes away and that's the only thing that I'm relying on for my paid supports, what's going to happen to my trajectory to a good life? It might start going towards the things I don't want. I'm not going to have the life that I want and that I envisioned. Just as important as family is, we can't keep always just saying, well, the family's taking care of it. The family's got it. They got natural supports. That usually means translated to family, right? But what happens if somebody in the family gets sick or, God forbid, passes away, right? If something goes on with that family where they can't be the sole support anymore, what's going to happen to the good life? It's going to start going the wrong way. You got the burnout of caregivers, right? Sometimes family and friends are just like, I can't deal anymore, right? You've exhausted all your resources. We can't start going towards that way. So we have to make sure that families are supported and we're not just relying on only the family to support a person. I'm sorry, I saw the comment, and just plain sick of each other. That happens sometimes too, and that's okay to say, right? Okay, next slide is really kind of how we all put it together. We want to have those integrated supports, all the different colors of the star, so that if something goes awry with one of those supports, we've still got all the other ones. And that circle that you see over there on the left with all the stars kind of spaced out everywhere, that's just showing that means we can have those kind of supports where and when we need them. Or if you're just talking about only paid supports, sometimes they're very restrictive. Well, you can only have that support in your home. They can't take you out in the community. These kind of supports with the star, you can have those where and when you need them. So I'm going to show you just one thing real quick because we're getting close to the end of my time here. So this is kind of how Ben's star looked when he first left school, right? The school bus does stop coming, right? Even when you don't want to think about it and you don't plan for it, even if you don't plan for it, it's going to stop coming. And so we had to think about, what does life look like for Ben now that school isn't part of it anymore? And so his star was kind of limited. It was really just mom and dad and those relationships. And we were really just using eligibility specific supports. We had some waiver supports and things like that. We were able to hire staff for 40 hours a week. As you see on the kind of calendar page on the right, that's what his life looked like in a week, right? Had that 40 hours of green, and the rest of the time was mom and dad supporting. And if I could tell you all the stories, I would, but some things happened and we had to really think about changing that picture a little bit. And so one of the things we started with was he continued to volunteer at our local fire station. That was part of his transition program. But they're like, now that he's graduated, we want him to keep coming and keep being a volunteer here. And so his paid staff would go with him and support him at the fire station. And the firemen decided they would rather just be Ben's supports while he was there. And so they asked us one day if we would just drop him, if we would just have the paid staff drop him off and pick him up when it was time, and they would support him while he was there. And of course, my mom brain immediately said, what if something happens? What if he has a seizure? What if? And then I was like, okay, he's at a fire station where there's paramedics and EMTs, and they're about 2 blocks from a hospital. I think I can take a risk here, right? And so I had to get past that fear of my mom brain and say, let's try this. And it was fine. I mean, we've had to work through some things, right? We've had to give them some coaching and things, but you know, we had to take a chance and say, let's try this. And then we're like, well, if that worked, let's try this. He likes to volunteer still with the football team in our little town here. And so, he doesn't have to have a paid person with him to do that. The coaches watch out for him and the other kids look out for him. And so we just started incorporating more things. And, he likes to go to concerts and wrestling matches and NASCAR and things like that. And it's like, it's boring for him to always go with mom and dad. Let's have his brothers start taking him or his friends. Let's buy some baseball tickets and ask one of his friends if they want to take him to the baseball game. They get a free ticket. They get money for snacks and they just have to provide the transportation and the fun. And so Ben's calendar changed from kind of a boring, it just didn't look like a great life for a 21-year-old to being very integrated with different colors of the star. And it didn't happen overnight. It took time, but it happened. Ben's tools, they don't just have to look like the tools that we have on the website. We use pictures because that's what he relates to and talks about, and he doesn't read very well. And so it can be colorful and have pictures and be, you see the arrows on there. That's the trajectory and the stars integrated in there. And so life course is in there, but it doesn't have to look like exactly like the tools that you see on the website. So keep that in mind if you're using life course tools. So again, the last thing, and I'm sorry, the slide's just a little bit off here on where the letters are, but we want to make sure that all people and their families are able to be the voice and lead the change, right? We want people to engage with, to lead, and to drive their own lives, their own supports and services, but also policy and systems change. They have to hear from us. The people making the laws and making the rules and making the policies have to hear from us and have to hear our stories. Okay, so really quickly wrapping this up, I'm going to kind of just review really quickly all the things we talked about. We talked about the all and the reason that we talk about the all, because not everybody gets paid supports, and why it's so important to think about the 100%, not just the 25% of people who might get services. We talk about the person who exists within the context of their family, their friends, their community. And we also talk about the life domains and how those life domains can all work together, can help us with our vision for a good life of what we want and don't want. We talked about the three buckets that we just talked about of information, peer support and connection, and the goods and services. Sorry, it's a little slow to pop everything up. And then finally, the star. And so all the different parts of the star and how we can enhance those strengths. And one of the things you can really do with this is you can take that star and really think about what exists right now. You know, what kind of relationships do I have, or do the person I support have? What are my personal assets and strengths? All the different things. And you can kind of see where the gaps are. And then you know what you need to build and work on. We can't forget about the trajectory and the life stages, and how those life stages all build upon each other. How transition to adulthood, moving to adulthood starts early in those life stages and works all the way up through adulthood. So that's it for me. This is our website. Feel free to check it out. There was a couple of direct links I saw in the chat. Use those. It'll take you directly to those pages and those tools I was talking about. Don't forget, this is about conversations and interacting, and less about the tools, but more about the thinking and the having those conversations. And I know there might be questions, so if anybody's keeping track of that, let me know.
Thank you so much, Jane. This is Tim, and that was fantastic. Really appreciate it. So Hunter, my son is sitting with me, and he had a couple of questions.
Awesome.
One, is anyone working on the translating the tools or guides into Spanish and other languages?
Most of our tools and guides are now translated to Spanish. I don't think that the healthcare transition tools have been translated yet, but we're figuring out how to get that done. But all of our tools, as we're doing the tip sheets, they're being translated as well. So yes, as well as other languages. But yes, Spanish is the main one that we have translated, but we have others that are translated to some different languages as well.
And
Good question, Hunter. Thank you.
yeah, his other question is, do you have any guides or plans on like helping people with autism go to conferences, whether they're attending or maybe exhibiting and selling their stuff, or maybe as a presenter?
Yeah, we actually have what we call our Life Course Showcase every year. It's coming up in early May of this year. There's still time to attend. We recommend that you check with like your maybe your local DD council or that kind of thing to see if you can get some scholarship funding. We do have the ability, you could, if you have like a small business, if you're a person with a disability and you want to exhibit and show like your business and that kind of thing, absolutely. Yeah, you can contact us. We can give you more information on that. We would love to have more people. And yeah, it, we try to have tracks to where there's something for everybody, right? People with disabilities, people with autism, family members, professionals, people who are executive directors of things. We want to we have those tracks that kind of take in all the different people that like to come, and it's a lot of fun.
Another
It's in,
question in the
yeah. Go ahead.
Another question in the chat, probably the last one before we move on to the next part of our morning. Have you created supports for attending college?
So there are some very specific things out there that exist. the Institute for Community Inclusion in Massachusetts has, I think it's called Think College. We don't specifically have college-related materials yet, but that's actually something that would be a great idea for us to move to. The cool thing is that you can use that trajectory. You can just use a plain trajectory to really think about what would college look like for me? What would I need to be able to be successful in college? What are the things I don't want to happen if what would be a bad college experience? I know here in Missouri, we have a couple of different colleges that have specific programs where some of them are degree seeking, some of them are more of a college experience, but you might want to check those out as well. But yeah, the life course concepts can be used very much to think about college, plan for college, have success in college.
And we were able to put in the link for the Institute for Community Inclusion,
Mhm.
Institute for Community Inclusion. And they are the ones that are presently working with Think College, which is also available at thinkcollege.net.
Awesome.
So please feel free to use those. Well, Jane, I cannot tell you how excited I am that you were able to join us. Greatly appreciate the insight, the work that people have been doing for years on developing these tools in conjunction with people with disabilities and their
Absolutely.
families. So person-centered, so positive about how everyone can live a good life. They get to define what that good life is, and we're here to support them to live it. And
Yep.
I love that. So we look forward to using these tools in the future and seeing how else we might be able to learn more
Awesome.
from Missouri and the Life Course Nexus.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tim. And you summed it up so well. So appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thanks again.